what do you feel about someone who is experiencing, say, IBS or chronic gut issues or something like that, and they go down the how do you say, gut health route? They buy all the, probiotics and get their GI mapped, and do all the fancy stuff, and they find some results, but there's still something. It's still playing up, and they live this for the rest of their life. Not rest of their life, but most of their life, they live like this kind of, oh, I have to avoid these foods, or I have to do a keto diet, or I have to do like carnivore diet, I have to do these diets. Do you feel like that's just a band-aid on top of the gushing wound?
I'm so excited about this one. I have very close personal experience with this. So this was another key catalyst that got me into the field of metaphysical anatomy. So I know this very well. Long story, very, very short. I experienced IBS-C for pretty much my whole life, to the point where going to uni, I was so embarrassed about sharing a bathroom that I applied for an ensuite only, right? So it was something that I felt very uncomfortable about a lot my entire life. And when I was in Australia, when I used to live in Melbourne, I was actually in and out of hospital for about a year with all of these crazy pains, a lot of symptoms. They thought that it was showing signs of bowel cancer, maybe Crohn's disease, like it got to that level. I had the endoscopies, the colonoscopies, I had every kind of examination you could imagine, and they found nothing. And I was like, the symptoms are so real, but they're not finding anything. And there was a part of me that wanted them to find something so I could understand what I was going through. Because for a human, being in a state of confusion or uncertainty is one of the most hardest states to be in, right?
Yep.
This is why we want to find something. I actually just did a post about this on my story that I'm going to post in a minute. But anyway, so I what happened was I went through all of those tests and I was like, what are you doing? Of course it's emotional. Of course it's energetic. Why have I not looked there first? Because even though I'm already well versed in this field, the symptoms were so real and so strong. I was like, there must be something that will come up in the exam, right? So I followed that path. There's nothing wrong with that. Then when I realized they're not finding anything, and I was like, of course. So I then did a self-healing. This is how crazy this is, and this freaking blows my mind. Freaking blows my mind. This is why I love this work so much. I did a self-healing session and I sat there and I brought awareness to my gut and I just listened. I just held space. I just created enough space to listen without making it mean anything, without story. And what came through was that I was carrying my mum's trauma. It wasn't even mine to carry. And all of these dots started connecting of the fact that she's had gut issues and there's loads of foods that she can't eat and da. And then I was like, I was brought back to when I was in her womb, because a lot of trauma can actually be related to conception, during the womb, and then at the at birth, because birth is a very traumatic experience. I actually studied, when I studied energy psychology, I studied birth trauma. So because I'm open to that, my consciousness can take me there. So I was taken to my time in the womb and it was like, ooh, there's a big energy of grief when I was in the womb. Now, I consciously know that my mum lost her father 3 months before I was conceived. And my mum said to me that the entire time she was pregnant with me, she was grieving the loss of her father. And it was only until the day that she was holding me in her arms that she realized she needed to get over that grief. So I was like, right, I've just spent 9 months when I'm forming my body and my nervous system, absorbing, because babies, when we absorb nutrients and we also absorb energy. So we absorb our mother's energy just like we absorb nutrients. And I was like, I was just when I was being built, I was absorbing grief. That was the predominant energy, emotion that I was consuming as a tiny little fetus who's extremely suggestible. So IBS and gut issues can be very closely related with grief. You know about the gut brain axis. Like the gut is really the center of where we hold emotion. So any intense emotion will usually be held there, but especially grief is quite a big one. So when I came to that realization that it actually wasn't my stuff, I was just carrying my mum's patterns, it changed. It changed. Now, I've had a couple of times where I've been through seasons of disruptive gut health when I'm going through a highly stressful time or emotional time. But since that moment, I've rarely had an issue since. And that was going through a couple of decades of this to then no issues whatsoever. as I was saying, that's essentially the power of bringing awareness to what's going on, realizing that there is an emotional and energetic component to it. So when it comes to gut health, just to kind of give, because it's one of the most common things we experience, so it'll probably help a lot of people listening. If it comes to constipation, it's usually that you have a learned behavior to hold on to things. You struggle to let go and fully trust, and you actually find safety. This is a really big one. You actually find safety in holding on to negative experiences as a way to protect yourself from those experiences happening again. So it's a protection mechanism. If it's diarrhea, then you usually struggle to digest people or situations in your life. And I feel like with diarrhea, it's very closely connected with a lack of self-nourishment and nurture. So you're not actually absorbing the nutrients from what you're consuming. You're not listening to your environment. You're not absorbing what's happening in your environment. You're either rejecting your environment or the relationships in your environment, or you're rejecting your own self-care and self-nourishment. Now, the gut is closely connected with the solar plexus, which energetically speaking represents self esteem, confidence, willpower, ability to take action, personal power, masculine energy, self support, all of those things. So, usually, people that experience gut issues are also experiencing some sort of deficit or deficiency with those things.
Thanks for watching this clip of the Getting Mental podcast. If you like this clip, check out the full episode here or more clips here.